is to review applications for certificates of appropriateness, determining whether or not proposed changes to any structures designated in the ordinance are consistent with its guidelines. These guidelines are based on the Secretary of the Interior's standards for the treatment of historic structures. My name is Scott Stevens. I chair the commission. I'm joined by John Covino, Donald Rose, and Kari LaPrey. We are all here, so we have a quorum, we have a full house. I would normally open a public hearing, but there is no one here to participate in a public hearing. So the first thing I would like to do is discuss our efforts to modify the Article 12.16. That's something I assume you and I have ready at hand. So I brought copies for,
that's fine.
for our friends. You're very familiar with this. We've been working on it for a long time. We did hear back from the town attorney last week, and John Covino and I she made suggested changes. We accepted most of them and altered one bit of wording. I just want you to be aware of what we submitted then to the planning board for its public hearing on June 11th. And John, do you want to talk about the changes? Should I do that?
My suggestion would be that neither of us do. Since this is a public meeting, we don't want it to get into advice of counsel and that type of thing.
Okay.
Your call, Mr. Chairman, but that would be my
I
suggestion.
think what I'll do, rather than go through it line by line, is just generalize that her changes were intended to clarify and highlight important aspects of her interpretation of the enabling legislation. And these have to do with who is eligible and under what, and what the requirement is, which is a maintenance plan consistent with our standards. So that was achieved by moving around some things, not changing the wording, but just simply moving things from one place to another. And maybe, now I don't remember, but a change of, minor changes of wording. Going through it, we quickly decided to accept the changes, and then we just made a minor word tweak, so.
I have to apologize if what I sent to you, just a paragraph or so, the other day, I thought that was what Dylan Smith was going to submit to our attorney rather than what you were going to submit to the planning board.
Oh, I
That's
see.
when you asked if there was an attachment, I said no. And then you just mentioned it's going to the planning board. I said, oh my.
That's right, yeah, we were under the gun that day. He had to get the materials to the planning board
Okay.
that day.
So I don't need to submit it to the planning board now?
You do not.
Okay, all right, that's fine, as
yeah.
it turns out, but I feel bad that I gave you what appeared to be and turned out to be incomplete because I thought it was for a different purpose.
I'm sure that was a failure to communicate
Okay.
on my part.
Right.
So this is in the pipeline. On the 11th, Kari and John are going to attend that public hearing. Unfortunately, I can't. I made an obligation before I knew there would be a public hearing that day. I appreciate your doing that in my stead. Any questions or comments?
So the planning board will have had this ahead of the meeting? Will there be
Yes, they will
people,
have this.
the public at the meeting to ask
The
about it?
public might be,
They won't have seen it.
I think it will have been, I think any of their materials will be attached to agenda, whatever else.
I will just ask you, Scott, after, to make sure I have what they have.
Right. Good.
So this is the first public hearing with them
Yes.
to get input, and then, is
Well,
there,
well, we had a public hearing earlier in the year.
oh, that counted
Got
also.
their input.
Okay,
So, and this is not a major reconstruction of it. So this is the second public
Okay.
hearing of a slightly tweaked version. Broad concepts being the same.
okay.
What's the next step?
If they will act to recommend change or not recommend it, then it will go to the the select board. And they will have a public hearing and choose how they act on it.
Do we know, I assume the planning board has a separate attorney than we have? No,
The
same one?
town attorney serves all.
All, okay.
boards.
I was just envisioning that he descended to their attorney.
That would be terrible.
I see.
If there,
So the stuff that's crossed out, that's way back from the very
that
beginning?
goes from the, yeah,
From
this is
the
the,
actual,
yes, this is
Okay.
the format that they get because it shows what's
Okay.
being eliminated from the current
Okay.
wording in the ordinance. And anything, yeah. Anything that remains is either originally there or what we have added.
okay. Are this, oh, the things in italics are what you add?
The things in italics are what yeah, I think the things in italics are changes that she made. But I'm not sure no, maybe I think the things in italics are the changes, are all changes. They have to be. She didn't do this much work on it. They're all,
Okay.
all our changes are in our italics. And I'm sure Dylan did that with what we sent him because he knows how it's supposed to be presented to the planning board.
Okay, and this makes sense.
So it didn't change the wording, it merely changed the font.
Yeah, she had some comments on the side, but.
Right.
Everything in italic, right, okay.
Okay.
Other comments or questions? If not, I'd like to raise another matter. Are we good? Great. So what I want to point to, I'm sure I mentioned this, but in Article 12, 12.8, improvements not requiring Historic District Commission review. 12.8.1, nothing in this article shall be construed to prevent the ordinary maintenance or repair of any architectural feature of any building or structure where such repair does not involve a change in design, material, or appearance. So that was the issue that came up as we approached this meeting this month. There were a couple of submissions regarding a historic house in a historic district. And I think what they were doing, of course, we don't see everything until it's ready for us to consider, right? But I think what was happening is people were bringing it to code and saying, do we need to submit an application for a certificate of appropriateness? And then code, the director of code, Harry Norton Jr., contacted me and said, do you think we need to? And that conversation got a little bit stretched out due to his time and my time not coinciding. But my clear impression was there was no change of design, form, or material, so no. But it occurred to me that we've had instances where observant members of this commission or others have said, you know, there's something going on at this house, you know, in this historic district, and we didn't talk about that. So I thought we should suggest protocol to the code office, how these things are dealt with, so we are not surprised. And so that we're on the same page and everybody understands the standards that we're applying. What I would suggest is that, like with letters involving historical or archaeological resources, where we get requests from engineering firms or whatever, site planners to look at their site maps and tell them whether there's anything of potential value there that they need to plan for. The way we handle that now is they come to me and I consult the Maine Historic Preservation Commission and their superior maps. I consult our maps, and then I write a letter that says, yes, there is something within 500 feet, or no, there isn't. And then I inform you. I think we should basically do the same thing, but I welcome your thoughts, and I don't have to be the gate. Any one of us can, it's a pretty simple judgment, I think. Any one of us could. I want to make sure that one person isn't making all the decisions unless you are entirely comfortable with those coming to me only.
I'm comfortable with that. I'm just thinking, it brings to mind the question of who decides that there's no change in these things.
Right.
Because sometimes people say, oh, it looks the same, and we say, well, it doesn't really look the same. You know, and I guess the materials is the obvious thing. I mean, if they're not changing materials, then they sort of get a pass. But, I mean, it's like, is there a burden of proof for them to say, we're not changing these things? Or is it just, like you said, you just...
Those are great questions. It's a little bit of a sketchy area because if you're replacing an asphalt shingle roof with other asphalt shingles, I don't even think you need a permit now. I think it's
Yeah, no, I think you're right.
considered maintenance. So code might not ever even see it until the job is underway. And then what if they're drastically different shingles? You know, I don't know if that's an issue or whatever, but maybe that's a bad. Well, we don't regulate color. That's the interesting
Well,
thing.
we regulate color of material. We don't regulate paint color. But I've always wondered whether asphalt shingled color fell in
Right.
there. I mean, you wouldn't want them to put bright red asphalt shingles in the middle of the district or something.
Right.
But I didn't know whether that would ever come before us, or like you said, it would just
Yeah.
pass by.
I mean, there are architectural shingles, and then there are whatever others, and so how precise do we need to be? These are good points, and I'm afraid we'll only discover how we should improve our protocol by seeing something that we wouldn't have agreed on.
Right.
It might be worth a workshop with the code office to talk about this and really get into it in detail, and possibly some elaboration of the ordinance to help property owners know, understand the standards in a more nuanced way. I was thinking too of, for instance, composite wood or whatever. Would somebody think that was the same thing as whatever?
And it's not, yeah. So, yeah, I think a workshop isn't a bad idea. We could go over the whole procedural thing too.
Right, we could talk about procedure, talk about, materials. Materials are getting to be a gray area these days. I just hope I don't live long enough for vinyl siding to become
Oh, I think
historic.
it's pretty much, we're there, I think.
Are we there? Oh, no.
Scott, I object. I hope you do live long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me rephrase that. I hope I don't serve long enough in this seat.
Right.
No, I also hope you serve long enough.
Yeah, thanks anyway. So, okay, if that, do we agree that's the best approach to have a workshop, a discussion? I'll find out what the protocol for that has to be, whether they come to one of our meetings, whether a delegation of us can go to theirs. I think if we all go, it has to be a publicly noticed meeting.
Right.
But I think if
Two can go.
two go and have this conversation and report back,
Right.
then that is appropriate.
I think you did it before a long time ago, didn't
We,
you?
we
I feel like
were,
you've
for
done
a
this.
while, meeting routinely, quarterly with the code office, and I think that would be a really good thing to resume doing, because there's a surprising amount to talk about, and it helps
Right.
avoid miscommunication, especially now with the transition that we're making to our administration being done by the code office. They're really working, they're being very thoughtful and attentive to what our needs are and what the appropriate procedure is, but questions do come up. So we should do that, one or the other. I think that might be the better way to go. If a couple of us went to their meeting, I think asking them to come to one of our meetings is a lot, and I just think it's better to present a policy in a public hearing rather than present the process of getting there in a public hearing.
Oh, I see what you mean. If they
Yeah.
came to our meeting, it would be.
It would be
me,
public and, yeah,
Not a workshop,
right, and it's, yeah.
right.
Okay, well,
But I guess what you were saying before about the change or the ordinary maintenance repair, I mean, you're saying the code enforcement is going to consult with one of us and say, this is what they're proposing. Is this a change?
I'd say we can request that.
Yeah.
They are, of course, in charge of their own procedure.
Right.
And they may say, nah, we think we understand, we'll be careful, and we'll let you know.
Okay.
But I think it would be good to have the conversation. This has come up a couple of times lately, because I also had somebody talk to me informally about their roof and what they had to go through in a historic district, what they had to go through to change it, and was aware of that provision and of the lack of a need for a permit, et cetera. So it's come up now twice within a month. Seems we need to clarify again, in the interest of making life, of doing our job as well as possible and making life as easy as possible for the people in the historic districts. Then, with your blessing, I will arrange that conversation. Does anybody care to volunteer to join me at a meeting with the,
I can if you want, if you want.
Would depend on timing.
yeah, okay. I'll let you know when they normally meet, and we'll figure that. I think I should be there, but I would welcome other sharper minds. Okay. Is there, we have minutes to look
Oh,
at?
Yeah. Yeah, and again, the back and forth and the posting, who sends the minutes, we could go over procedurally in a workshop or something.
Yes. Just a moment while I get to them electronically. Okay, meeting, the minutes of May 5th, 2026.
I'll move they be accepted as submitted.
Do I have a second?
I will second.
Is there any discussion? There being no discussion, I'll ask that you vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Vote is unanimous. We accept them. Is there any new business that we should treat?
Not other than the old business.
Any old business we should
No.
treat that we haven't already treated? If not, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn at 5:52 on this date.
Motion by Donald Rose to adjourn.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, my friends.
Okay.